Hello. Welcome back to the Trading Triangle. Once again, it's me and Kaye. Kaye's back from Europe. How did it go, Kaye?
It was a lovely trip. Thank you so much, Sean. Good to be back, and happy Sunday to all the viewers.
Happy Sunday indeed. Yes, of course. Obviously, a disclaimer. We're just a couple of guys looking at charts on the internet. It's what we love to do. So obviously, it's not financial advice. I'm sure you can see the passion flow through the screen as you kind of go through this live stream. And obviously, a massive thank you to Wolf for letting us use the platform as well. As you can see, the kind of links is kind of around the X and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, thank you once again for that. And lastly, obviously, put your ticket requests in the comments. We will be happy to go through some. We don't actually have any just yet. Normally we have a couple, and I'm sure they'll be free flowing through very, very shortly, of course. So to put them in the comments, we'll go through our normal stuff. And then we've got the stock pick of a week from each of us. And then obviously we'll go through your audience requests. So get them coming in. And yeah, that's it. Should we jump into the portfolio?
Let's do it.
Portfolio. What we're talking about, slideshow. There we go. So tomorrow's obviously March the 10th. We've got a bit of a busy week as well. I think CPI and PPI, but we'll touch on that in just a second. But this is the market of last week. Pretty red overall. I mean, you've got a few big names like Microsoft and Google not doing too badly, but you've got Meta there almost down 5%. Same with NVIDIA and same with Amazon as well. Is anything kicking off the page here for UK?
Well, I was since I was on vacation, I did not bother looking at the markets, but it's definitely not a great week, I guess, for you guys who were actively trading. But I'm surprised that Google was still able to hang in with a 3% up, considering the tech really got its ass handed down to them last week.
Yeah, one thing I will say, actually, I didn't actually do a lot of trading last week. I was more concentrating on my long-term positions and kind of longer-term swings. And the people in the TTR will know that, which is the trading community. But the longer-term positions like Amazon and all that kind of coming down to some key levels, and obviously posted that during the week on X. So just, yeah, I might look at that again. I might repost it because they're coming up to some important points, these big stocks. And I'm sure we'll talk about it today as well as we move through the live stream. But yeah, of course, interesting. Well, let's go back to that. Interesting last week. I mean, obviously Tesla down 6% as well, and there's a few sectors that are not too bad. So industrial services and of course consumer non-durables is not too bad either. So it's mainly again tech and finance getting hit as well, especially JP Morgan. Wow, 7%. Interesting. Let's move on. So fear and greed index, we've been floating below 20 for the whole week really. I think I saw it as low as 15. I think. Throughout the week, I could be wrong, but I think I saw it as low as 15, which is, it's peak fear. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you buy through these times, Kaye?
No, I did not buy anything last week because I was just holding off on to see what's going to happen. If you notice, we have a considerable amount of puts that have been opened. We were around the 0.67 2 weeks ago when we did our last live, and now we are up to 0.81. The VIX was around the 18 and we had jumped to 23.37. So I hope that some of you got a chance to take advantage of the VIX calls because, I mean, that is, I think at this point in time, those VIX calls are a pretty stable bet. So again, I'll repeat what you can do is generally when the VIX falls to around 16, 17, you can look to open in the money VIX calls maybe 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks ahead and take advantage of those spikes. This is a pretty straightforward, trade idea that you can take advantage of. But overall, I think the next week is going to be very, very crucial. We have some big events coming up, CPI, PPI, jobless numbers, and it's going to be a volatile market for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. So as you mentioned, the CPI and PPI coming on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. It will be an interesting week for sure. We've got a few comments here. Obviously, good morning to Justin. Nice to see you. Is it Very or Verla? Verla. Hello, big dogs. And that's what we are now, I guess. I don't think we're big dogs as such, but if you want to call us that, that's great. And we've got a comment here as well from Verla again. What would you guys suggest to the monthly S&P buyers? Should we continue to buy or just wait? Do you want to take that one, Kaye? Because I think it's a fairly obvious answer.
Yeah, no, I think it depends on your long-term profile, right? If you are on any big drops, you definitely should be adding to your long-term portfolio for SPY and QQQ. Should you invest all your money in one go? Absolutely not. You should always do tranches. Do you want to take on the next comment from Mr. Silent?
Mr. Silent, yeah, I don't think this is a very nice comment. What a joke are these guys playing market by some fear and greed? They are a joke. So we don't appreciate too unkind comments, but we we welcome any comments at all, really. So, yeah, any thoughts on that one, Kaye?
Well, my thoughts are, if you don't like to listen, you feel free to hop off the call. There's no need for you
Switch
to
off.
watch,
We've got a nice one here from Options Grower, which is good morning. So good morning to you over there, Options Grower. But I'm here in the UK. It's 5 p.m. here, so a little bit later than a good morning. So good afternoon from here.
So
Anyway,
for the folks who are not in the US, just so you know, the daylight saving has started. So adjust your clocks to if you trade the US markets.
yeah, so it's interesting here because it's an hour earlier, so I get to do all my trading a little bit earlier this week coming up, which is exciting. But anyway, let's move on. We've got upcoming earnings this week. There's not a huge amount that I'm looking at on this chart. We've got Li Auto on Friday before the market open. And there was another one on here, UiPath as well, on the Wednesday after the market closed. I think you've probably got a few names on here. Do you want to touch on those?
Yeah, so Monday we have Oracle. So if you are looking to watch it, you definitely watch it. Asana is another software, a SaaS company that if you are looking for some SaaS names, I know a few folks ask for SaaS names. Asana is another one that you would want to watch. Adobe is something, if I know a lot of folks are interested in Adobe, you can probably watch that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it from our side. Let's do this.
We do. So let's do this. What are we doing?
Let me just send you the message here. All right, let's go. Okay. I'll send you the message. I'm not getting the response on my side. 1 second.
Okay. So we've got the first chart of the day, which is SPY. And it's been interesting a few weeks. Obviously, you had the last week off. So we had a bit of a choppy week last week. It's very difficult to trade, I think. So, I mean, why don't you speak to this while I get on with that?
I think for SPY, I think overall the issue is that our new administration is causing a lot more fear in the market because of this on and off trade wars, right? I don't know if you're following that routine or not, but it seems like Canada is not backing down. And if there is no deal reached, we will have what I think Ontario particularly is going to have a 25% tariff on the electricity for the 3 states, Minnesota, I think Michigan, and New York. So by Monday, they're going to start that. So I hope they come with a deal and this is off the table, but that's on the cards. We already are starting to see some impact on the overall market from the American products, especially liquor, because that's causing a problem as well. We got a couple of comments from Jack Daniels that tariff war is not helping them. I think there is another Kentucky. They produce bourbon, I believe. They are also having issues. They did a layoff. Now, there are a lot of conflicting news that the layoffs were announced before this tariff war. But whatever be the case, you have that added on top of it. You see a lot more demonstrations against Tesla across the board. We see a lot more problems with Ukraine and US support. And it's just these comments. I think it's a very volatile situation, and we'll probably see these playing out. And especially with CPI and PPI numbers coming in out, I think it's going to be even more volatile next week as opposed to the previous week.
It's just uncertainty, isn't it? And the market looks at the kind of forward kind of 6 to 9 months, and if it's going to be slightly uncertain with the tariffs, etc., then the market's going to be choppy. It's going to be volatile. It's good for some people, like good for traders, etc., day traders, but it can be very mentally tough. I think definitely for a lot of traders. Sometimes the best trade is no trade, so just bear that in mind when you're having a look at the charts and trading.
I think what you can do though is you can switch up your mind and think from an investor standpoint, right? So if you invest in SPY, particularly in index funds, right, this is a good opportunity for you to start nibble into these SPY and QQQ, right? Add them on each drop. Of course, keep some dry powder for you because if you see further decline, you can add more. But I think you should switch between this. If you don't day trade and you are specifically options trading, position trading, swing trading, take those opportunities. Day trading offers a lot more variety, I guess, because you can look at SPY and do a day trading and still be profitable on a down day. I don't know if we have hit the bottom yet because a lot of people are calling it a bottom. The problem with this scenario, unlike other, is we are driven by news a lot more than 2 months ago or 3 months ago. Before we would focus on, okay, we have an event coming up. For example, Jerome Powell is going to speak. We may have an event. Now every day is an event. So
yeah, it certainly is, especially this new administration, of course. So, but yeah, I mean, like you said, keep some dry powder on the side. I think that's an important thing. It's always good to have a little bit of cash on the sidelines, especially in these uncertain times, of course, as you mentioned.
yeah, there's a comment from Verla. If you don't want to, then to buy the dip or to wait till Friday. I don't know the answer to that, honestly.
Again, it goes down to kind of your investing style, your trading style. So it's different. I mean, if you're one that likes to add on the 200 moving average, then obviously Friday probably would have been a good day for you.
Yeah.
But if you like to go below the 200 moving average, perhaps you have a rule of like a really solid support line, perhaps. And then maybe 560, as an example, might be a better strategy for you. But it's good to kind of ideal yourself with your own strategy and see what kind of works for you. But personally, I think these are good levels for me personally to add. But obviously, I would keep some dry powder on the side, as we both mentioned here on the live stream. We'll move on to Qs. We spent a lot of time on SPY. Similar sort of story. It's kind of holding on to the 200 moving average, but I've drawn this zone here, which I've had here all week. And it kind of relates to that tweet I talked about that I had earlier on in the week. I keep saying tweet, post, X-post, whatever, which kind of comes down to kind of 480 to 486. And it kind of bounced off there on Friday. Of course, it can always go lower. It's nice to look at the moment, but obviously it's not, I look good now, but it could be a few days more of pain. It could be down to kind of 470. So just bear that in mind. I'm not an oracle or anything like that. So it just looks good for now. But I think reclaiming this 200 moving average for the Qs is very, very important. Wouldn't you agree, Kaye?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think we got a couple comments. So if you don't mind, let's take those
I could stop
comments.
talking, so that's why I did it.
Yeah. No, it's good.
So here we go. This is just a technical look at what the market is doing and getting ready for what may happen. I mean, it goes that kind of uncertainty. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Our job is as traders to look at what it is and then basically react to it. As an investor, you would want to also assess, should we add at these levels or not? Generally, it's a good idea to slowly dollar cost average at major levels because, again, I think the next comment is...
Yeah, I was bring it up. You're kind of talking to that now.
Yeah, they never guess the bottom or the top. Exactly. So nobody can guess where the bottom is going to be. So the best idea is to add on those massive moving averages, 200-day, 150, 100-day moving averages, even 300-day moving averages to good quality companies. And that's generally the idea. Now, if you're trading, that's a different situation. But from an investing standpoint, that's pretty much the golden rule. Not that we are telling you anything new. You probably know this already.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why people have been doing it for decades. It kind of works in the long term. So there's a reason why people do it. Another question here from Jeremy. What's your prediction for AEYE earnings? I don't even know who that is. So I don't have any comments on that, Jeremy, personally. It's not a ticker I'm familiar with. I don't think I've even heard of that ever, to be honest. But
I'll take a look at it. I don't know what this company is. But we can cover that in the audience request. Yeah,
we'll add it onto our list and we'll have a look at it in just a second. But yeah, that's a QQQ. Anything more to add to this one, or are you happy with the? Awesome. So we're going to my pick of the week this week, which is Palantir. Obviously, with the market downturn, Palantir has come down as well, and a whopping 35%. We had a feeling it might come down at some point because the valuations are quite high, and of course, it just went on an absolute tear upwards. I mean, fair enough, but the company is absolutely killing it. And it makes a lot of sense that the stock has kind of followed in that path as well. Let me just get rid of our faces so we can see the RSI here. The RSI has kind of come back down to kind of 40, 45-ish. It's kind of back into the middle, which I kind of like that. And of course, the zone I've got drawn here, which is 75 to 85, I've had that drawn for a number of weeks now, and it's just kind of playing around this area. I'm still kind of just waiting for it to kind of come down to the 75 level. And if we don't get it, then of course that's trading. You can't have your perfect entries. But I guess what my point here is to kind of long-term look at this trade. I'm not in this long-term, unfortunately, but this could be a good zone to perhaps DCA to. Obviously, it's not financial advice, just something I would look at moving forward. But for a trade, I'd like it to kind of come back down to the 75 just because it's the bottom of the support level. And obviously fill up a couple of these gaps. You've got one here about 100, which is a nice psychological level. And then I don't think that is a gap, but I think that's just the only gap there. I'll stop talking about this one now, and I'll move it back over. Any thoughts on Palantir?
Well, as we were talking about Palantir a couple of weeks ago, when it was above 100, and I think there was a lot more FOMO. And because of this massive gap up, one of the reasons we were talking about is like you shouldn't try to buy at 100 plus level, because when it will pull back, it will most likely fill that gap. Now, would I buy Palantir at 84? Probably not. Personally, that's for me. The reason is because I have a very low cost basis. So I don't see why I would add at these levels. I would definitely want to see market stabilize before adding, because I wouldn't be surprised if we pull back further down from here, right? There is no because now this is acting as a resistance, this particular level, which is the 84, 85, right?
85, yeah.
Yeah, so that is acting as a resistance now. So if we see further rejection from that level, we could probably get down below to around which was a support of what, 74, 72, 73,
Yeah,
something, right? So that could be another point. So I mean, at this point in time, because the general broader market has lost its momentum, I am staying put.
fair enough. No problem. That's I mean, we like that. That's the kind of trading perspectives we have. So for me, I quite like this level, this kind of zone that we've got here. And Kaye obviously wants to hold and sit on his hands and wait a little bit longer, which is absolutely fine. We all both kind of have different trading styles or different long-term perspectives, I guess, as well, kind of mixing in there. But that's my pick of the week. That's Palantir. You can obviously find me on X with the handle of SeanTrades_. Obviously, I post there daily, kind of trading insights, psychological kind of stuff with trading as well. So go ahead and follow me over there. YouTube, I've got another video coming out this Saturday related to kind of financial assets, etc. So go ahead and subscribe to me over there, same handle. And TTR as well, TTR as well, which is my trading community. You can get the link on my X profile. It's right there, right in front of you, so you can go ahead and join that as well. We'd love to see you in the room. That's it for me. Let's move on to Kaye's chart of today.
Okay, so the reason I brought up Datadog here is not specifically that this is the time to buy Datadog. This is we couple weeks ago, Sean asked me, "What are your thoughts about Datadog in particular?" And when Datadog actually, broke down this long trend line, my comment to Sean was that I don't like it breaking the downtrend line. And there were this massive gap up that we had back in November of 2023. So we have been on this uptrend from August of last year. And when that broke down, I was not very happy or comfortable. Now, so this is where I'll bring up that when we look at the chart patterns, it's important you understand technical analysis and it works. However, the technical analysis, the fundamental analysis, you look at sentiments, you look at earnings. This is a combination of how you want to play. Now, if you're doing day trading, it's very different from position trading, from options trading, from swing trading. If you're going to do swing trading, one of the comments I got on my response was, then we haven't taken into account all the support levels or the resistance that would become its support. As you can see from the chart, all the support levels are broken down. Now, the reason is because that was the first idea that will come to your mind if you're just purely looking from a technical standpoint. Yes, we broke down through a long trend line. The previous resistance will become a support. Absolutely correct. The problem is if you actually dig further in and go look at the earnings report, the guidance is weak. And if you don't understand how the SaaS business works, so most of these companies, the big problem is that they have spent a lot of money on the AI aspects, but they are not able to monetize the AI aspect. The biggest example is CRM, Salesforce. They have been launching AI, they have been in AI business for like last 4 years. Every year there's a new theme. So if you use Salesforce at your work or have experience with Salesforce, you'll see they had an Einstein for last 2 years. Now they are talking about agentic AI. The problem is the landscape is changing so fast that these companies are not able to adapt and monetize it. The Copilot has completely failed on Microsoft. They haven't been able to monetize it. Now, when it comes to Datadog, they are in a position where there are a lot of companies, a lot of competition in what they do. Doesn't mean it's a bad company. Their future guidance is weak. So no matter how good the technicals are, if your future guidance is weak, you will see selling. And I don't like trading stocks that break a long-term trend line. That is a red flag for me personally. So Sean, going back to your point here, this is the reason why I recommended that let's wait for the $100 to come. That's a psychological support. And if that also breaks, then we will wait for the gap fill before we even think about adding Datadog.
I guess my question is the balance of the future guidance and the stock price now. So the future guidance has obviously been priced in, or is being priced in currently. There must be a certain point where investors will think, oh, this is actually quite good value now looking forward. It's been a bit of a sell-off, and now the forward guidance kind of makes sense. Do we jump back in now? That kind of thing.
It depends, right? If you already have a position, maybe you would want to take advantage on adding more on these big drops. But if you don't have a position, then you might want to wait, because now you are in a free fall where the gap fill is closer to than it was 2 weeks ago. So from my risk appetite, I would not touch the stock at this point. I would wait for the gap fill to get as close to the gap fill as possible. Now, the reason is because if you look at the broader market, most of the stocks are driven by broader market sentiment. If the broader market sentiment is weak, I don't want to get into positions where I'll burn my hands. I would let the stock actually go and test, maybe even break out and then retest and then maybe add to get some confirmation and confidence.
Yeah, exactly. No, good words. I think the $100 level is another level that I'm looking at, the psychological level, definitely. But one thing I would add, I don't think you spoke to it much at all, which is the RSI. It's down in the red zone. It's right down below, which is, it's a point of interest. It could be actually setting a bit of an RSI divergence. There's something for investors and traders to look at moving forward for Datadog. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I've written it down alongside a couple of notes, which you've mentioned as well. So yeah, greatly appreciated. I'm sure the viewers do as well. We do have a couple of questions. We have here, will you guys cover Bitcoin and Ethereum today? We'll add it to the list. Yeah, why not? We haven't looked at those for quite some time, have we? So you might as well add them to the list. And then what do you think about BA at this level? Again, we'll add it to the list and we'll get to that in just a second for you. Anything else on Datadog? Okay.
No, I think we're good.
Awesome. So let's, where can we find you?
Well, the usual, on X, on YouTube, and on Substack.
Simple as that. Nice and easy.
Yeah.
You can tell he's had a week off. Awesome. Right, we'll jump out of this and we'll get the charts up and ready.
The surprising is nobody asked about Tesla today.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm sure they will eventually. Let's get rid of that. Let's get this up. Right, here we go.
All right. First one is Amazon.
Amazon.
You've been trading Amazon a lot lately, right?
I have. I've been pointing out a lot about the kind of Mag 7 actually, because we've had a bit of a rundown in the market, but obviously you want to look at the kind of bigger stocks because they make the most money and they're kind of last the longest essentially in any sort of situation, whether it be a recession or black swan event or anything like that. They'll still be thereabouts. I just want to quickly put your ticket requests in the comments. Normally we start the session with that. We've got quite a few already. I think we might have enough for about 20 minutes or so, but feel free to stick a few more in there. Amazon, yes, of course. So here we've got the level here, which I've got drawn, which is about 185 to 188. This is the zone I've got. I know it's just below the moving average, but it's just a lot of volume at this level, which you can see obviously covered on the screen here. Just a point of interest. And of course, if we do break below that, and obviously the 200 moving average is, of course,
massive support level. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the weekly chart as well. So this is even more dramatic. If we go into the daily chart,
it's sitting right at the 200 moving average.
Exactly, yeah. So it's right there at the 200 average. So you can see why people kind of bought on Friday with that wick kind of coming up in the later parts of Friday. But whether that sustains or not, again, is yet to be seen. But I like this level here around 184, 188. And anything here to add, Kaye?
No, I think it's a pretty interesting level to watch, and especially with the next week CPI, PPI, if the market moves even down further, we might even see breakdown on Amazon. But again, if it's in your long-term portfolio, I would start to nibble at these levels.
Awesome.
Next up is Microsoft, another big one. I think we have Apple, we have Amazon, Microsoft, Meta. So basically NVDA. Yeah.
People are concerned. That's normal. Pretty fine. The fear and greed index tells you that. So we've got a bit of a level here, which I've got here of 369-ish and to 382. Kind of touched that on Tuesday, I think it was. It's kind of bounced off of that for now. But what I want to do is go to the weekly chart. I think it's always important to kind of go out rather before going in. And that you can see my interest at this level, which is the volume here. And I'm not going to talk too much to this. I think it's obviously a great company. You mentioned earlier Copilot's not taking off, but they still do lots of other things within the company, of course, to sustain their their future. But yeah, I mean, your thoughts on Microsoft? You know,
No, I think most people would have a position in Microsoft, right? So again, going to the same point, as you get these 5%, 10% drops, you add to your portfolio. I'm not trading Microsoft right now,
no.
but at this point in time, if it's showing weakness, because we haven't seen Microsoft dropping below 200 since August of last year. So you actually have, this is the same price you'd be buying around August of last year, right? Even below that.
Did you say 200 or 300?
No, I said we haven't seen the prices drop before August of 2024.
Oh, right. I thought you said.
No, what I meant was that like whenever you see prices dropping from its all-time highs of 5%, 10%, you can keep adding. It's way below it. It's way above its 200-day moving average. So that's on the weekly, and on the daily. On the daily, we are actually below the 200-day moving average.
Yeah, it happened for a while, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have been below since January 29th.
But it's kind of just not really moved for a long, long time, which I think is kind of catching people's eyes a bit. And like you say, for the longer term portfolios, and that's why people are looking at Mag 7 and bringing them up tonight, I think. Yeah, what's next?
Meta,
another one. This one actually looks really interesting to me. I was looking at this earlier. There's a few lines on the screen. I do apologise. But we do have the bottom of the trend line that's been set for quite some time, lots of volume, and obviously the psychological level of 600. I know it's come straight back up to 625 since, but just shows you that level is a bit of a key level for investors and traders. Jump out to the weekly. Similar sort of thing. Big sell-off in the last 3 weeks alongside the market and all the other big assets as well. Well, most of them. I think Apple's done pretty well. But yeah, no, it's an interesting point of support there for market.
Yeah, so on the weekly, it's at least on the 20-day SMA sitting right at top of it. But this was a pretty massive sell-off last week on Meta.
So that's the 20. I've just added the 20. That's the blue line. So that's what you're talking about there, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is also has a massive volume shelf, at least on the weekly. So that's your point of control where most of the trading is happening. So I'm not surprised that the price pulled back on those levels. I think generally Mag 7 is the primary culprit of QQQ being down, right?
Yeah.
Majority of the stocks are in a pretty bad position. So I think we have NVIDIA and Justin brought up Apple. So I think we can wrap up the Mag 7 and then move to the other tickers.
Cool. We'll do Apple now then.
Okay.
But this is probably the strongest out of all of them in terms of a chart perspective. I mean, we've had bad news on Friday. I don't remember seeing what that bad news was. Perhaps I was in Manchester at that point.
So I believe the Siri, the personalized Siri got delayed further out. I think that is what the news is, what Justin is probably mentioning. And I mean, I've been saying this for a long time. I think a couple of weeks ago when they announced the 16E version, and that was a new product that they were launching, and it's a new product in the family, and I was shaking my head. It's like, and don't forget, by the way, if the China tariff is still on the play. So now your iPhones and Tim Cook nicely said, hey, we're going to invest $500 billion in the US and we're going to make phones in the US. That's not happening. We can all count on that. So that's not happening. And our friends at Apple have really not innovated in a long time. So unfortunately, I have to say, even though it's my biggest position in my portfolio, I have to say Apple is not doing great here.
Nothing new coming out of Apple, basically. But from a chart perspective, it's doing pretty well. I mean, we've got the zone here from 225 to 230, that kind of $5 area. That's kind of bounced off of there the last couple of weeks. And really impressive candles, just from a candle standpoint. Obviously, we've come back down here, been bought up throughout that week and got a really nice hammer candle. And that happened again last week as well. Considering how the market overall is doing, I think that's pretty strong from Apple. So perhaps we do see, not all-time highs. Well, maybe, who knows? But yeah, it's just a strong couple of candles. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Candles? And that what surprises me because the fundamental narrative is different from the technical narrative here. Like if you look at Microsoft, you can understand that the general trend is not clicking for Microsoft, and that's why the stock is down, right? You can see NVIDIA, you can see Tesla, but Apple, I'm very confused. Your fundamentals are not, it's not showing off that it's doing anything good for the company. Most of their products have been stale, I would say, because we've been hearing from, if you follow CNBC, Gene Munster has been talking about this upgrade cycle. Like last year when 16 was getting launched, oh, we are getting into this massive upgrade cycle. Apple Intelligence is going to take over the world, is going to force people to change. Did not fly. Apple Intelligence is getting delayed left, right, and center. The new products are basically a stripped down version of an existing iPhone. Apple MacBook Air launch. Okay.
Yeah, they've got the M4 chip coming out, haven't they?
So the problem is, if you already have an M3 chip, why are you
don't
going to
need
buy
an
an
M4
M4 chip?
Yeah,
Right?
just not. And the M2 chips, I don't have one, but the M2 chips are apparently like an interesting step up from the Intel chips.
Yeah.
So you don't even need a M3 or M4. So it's pointless even buying one of the new ones, of course, unless your business really, really needs it. But this day and age, it's probably not the case. Right, let's check on NVIDIA, shall we?
Yeah. NVIDIA has been...
So I've got this dramatic level here.
This one, I don't know what's going on, but for the fact that on the daily we are down and we are back to the 112 level, this was our support going back to September of last year.
Yeah, so this bit here, a little bit lower, so maybe 102, 104. But I've got this dramatic level drawn here. All this volume is at kind of 88, 92. If it does get all the way down there, which you never know, but if it does get down there, I'll be very, very interested. But at the moment, it's just a bit of no man's land, isn't it? It's just kind of nowhere. So even on the daily charts, I've got the moving averages there, no specific volume, and on the weekly chart, it's kind of dropped down below the 50 moving average, but in quite dramatic fashion. We could come back up here and reclaim it this week. Of course, news depending with CPI and PPI would probably determine that price action, but it's in a bit of a spot of bother, shall we say, as we say here in the UK, a spot of bother. But it's hard to really narrate on this one, isn't it? I mean, where it is.
Only thing I'll say is, if you believe in the Max 7s, whether it's any of these companies, and you believe in the future, then these are the opportunities where you look into more from a long-term perspective and add to your portfolio, right? Because let's say something good happens. I mean, which is, I mean, any day can any news can come and the market can bounce. That's the problem we are in here, right? It's like every day there is a news event, and that's an impact. But if, let's say, NVIDIA gets some kind of I don't know, respite from the tariff war, for example, and suddenly the stock pops up 10% for no reason, no apparent reason. So I would add NVIDIA if you believe. Personally, I have been adding NVIDIA across this downfall at different levels for a long-term standpoint, and of course from a trading standpoint, I have NVIDIA at different levels where I run covered calls. But yeah, it hasn't been easy in the last, I would say, 2 weeks or so, since the market has taken a downturn. Most of the covered calls are basically expiring worthless, but now some of those trades are below my cost basis, so I can't sell covered calls.
Interesting time for NVIDIA investors.
All right. Next one is this stock I don't know. It's SPGI. I've never heard of this one.
Oh, this is just a SPY. So S&P Global.
Okay.
So we kind of narrated on that in the last, basically 10 minutes. We're covering all
10 minutes.
Mag 7.
Next up is, go ahead.
Compiling all of that. I mean, you could just, of course, just go into this. So I've just got to add that. So yeah, that's it.
Next is IBM.
Well, that's the global one. So that's actually slightly different. S&P Global. Not too sure what the details are of that, because it's got a bit of a less dramatic drop. And we've got a bit of support here on there. So yeah, an interesting one to have a look at. In fact, there's a bit of a breakout retest for the third time. If we're looking at it technically, of course, I mean, it's a bit more of an overall asset.
So S&P Global is basically provide the credit rating, benchmarks, analytics, and workflow solutions in the global capital, commodity, and automotive markets. So okay, so they basically are the company that does the rating So they're not the S&P, they're the S&P Global. They provide the ratings for the indices, right? That's what
Yeah.
they're doing here. So this is a company basically.
Okay. One to have a look at for sure, because this is technically it's pretty good. And we've got a lot of confidence here. You've got volume profile, 50 moving average, and the support line, which was a resistance back in the day. So yeah, not a bad one. SPGI.
Their
Next.
earnings, I mean, they did beat top line and bottom line on the earnings, and it has a buy rating from the market. It's actually a hold rating from the Wall Street.
Sorry, George, for almost passing this one, but we managed to stick on it. We found out what it was. The next one is IBM.
Yes.
From Mike. Let's have a look.
Was there like a news for IBM that we saw such a strong candle on Friday?
Don't know, but this is the weekly chart, and it's gone nothing but upwards for the last 2 years. I don't cover IBM at all. I don't really follow it either. But yeah, big strong candle on Friday. News related to that would be
I'm looking up.
insider buying.
So Trump plans to meet with several big tech CEOs next week. Is it? Yeah, IBM is included in that talks.
So it's news based again.
Seems like it. But we do have this major gap up. So that's very, very interesting. And but the good news is that they have been trading pretty sideways at those levels. That could be, we could see a good,
lots of volume here as well on this side.
yeah, lots of volume here at these levels. And
again, that's if we get down there, because we've got a bit of a bull flag basically playing out here. Just draw it out for people to have a look at. So obviously trading within a bit of a channel. If we break above that, then of course that is a bull flag that's been broken out of and carrying on. But if we break down, of course, that kind of 229 level that me and Kaye are talking about there, then that's another point of interest.
So it will be interesting, right? So next week, if they have a meeting and some substantial statement comes out from White House on, I don't know, we'll help you go to the moon. So we might even see a rally, a short relief rally on a lot of tech stocks. So
is this all-time highs for IBM? It must be, yeah. I mean, I've gone back to the 70s there. It is, yeah.
Yeah, it is an all-time high. Yeah. If you jump to the monthly, you'll be able to see. So next week, so keep an eye on those. There are a lot of companies meeting next week. IBM, Intel, HP, Qualcomm, TSM, Micron Technology. At least those are the ones listed in the list. Maybe I'm pretty sure there must be more.
No, I like IBM. Not too bad. We'll see. I don't see a trade just yet, but I'll keep it on the watch list for sure. So thank you, Mike, for bringing that one up. What's next?
Next is AEYE. It's Audio Inc.
This is the one we spoke about earlier, wasn't it? To earnings. Yeah. So we don't have any thoughts on the earnings, of course, because we don't know much about this company, but we can cover it from a chart perspective. 6% day on Friday. Nice to see that. But very volatile by the looks of it. Do you know what they do, Kaye? Got that information yet?
Yeah, I have it here. So they provide patented internet and content publication, distribution software, and related services to internet and other media to people, regardless of their device, location, or disability in United States. So
it's another tech company then.
It is a tech company. It's an application software company. And unfortunately, they had miss last earnings, which was in 11.7. So they are going to be reporting earnings 3.12 post-market. And let me see their history for a second. So they have had a history of missing their revenues multiple times. This company generates about 8.93 million per quarter. So you're looking at what, $24 million for the year that they generate. On a rating scale, Wall Street has a buy rating on it. The average price target is around $32, which is what, 159% upside potential.
That's up here. How many analysts are covering it? Do you know? Does it say
There are 5 analysts that are covering.
There could be more then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the price target there, 32. I mean, that's a one hell of a return. Technically, it's looking not too bad, actually. We've got the monthly here, which is a bit dramatic. But we've got the 20 and the 50 moving average kind of coming in there for the monthly, as well as that trend line I've drawn. I've got a bit mad with the lines, but jumping into the weekly, we've got the 200 moving average just below on the weekly at kind of $10. So that could be a point of interest for people. I'll definitely keep this one on the watch list for sure. And then the daily, obviously, it's going to be below all of the moving averages, which you would expect. But it's a tricky time to buy at this kind of price target. You want it to kind of reset and show a kind of a signal for a buying signal. So like a higher low, for example, would be a good one. Getting above above any sort of trend line would be a good one. Moving averages again would be a good one. But I'm definitely going to add this to the list and kind of push forward with my analysis on this one with the week coming.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to invest, and just keep an eye on their free cash flow for the upcoming earnings. They reported a positive, I think, 3.3 million in free cash flow last quarter. So as long as they can maintain the free cash flow for the next one, similar level, or I think that would be a positive sign as well for the stock.
And we've got that here. I'll just drag it down. This is the free cash flow here. So they're kind of really good last quarter. Kind of bottom left to top right is always what we like to see within most balance sheets, whether it be net income or revenue, of course, and kind of cash flows we mentioned. But yeah, no, good to see from Audio. Yeah, one to look at for sure. So thank you for bringing that one up, whoever that was. I've forgotten the name already. But I think we...
Let me see. It is...
here we are. Jeremy. It was Jeremy. There we go.
Okay.
So we don't have any predictions for earnings, but we do like the stock. Moving on, shall we?
What's TEM? Is it
TEM? This is the one that was Nancy Pelosi bought this one, wasn't
it? I don't know. I don't follow her that closely.
No, I just I saw the noise on X. I think she likes this one very much. I don't actually know what they do. I can't remember what they do.
Is she an active trader, or is somebody else trading on her behalf?
Well, we'll never know, will we? we'll literally never know that. But it's not been on the market for long. It came on July of last year, so it's a fairly new stock to the market. So interesting to see the interest so early for a stock like this.
Yeah, I mean, Wall Street has a buy rating on it. And now you say that, it sounds very familiar. I remember hearing this about this stock.
Welcome back, ManRam. I'm sure we'll get to Datadog and Net. We did cover Datadog already earlier on, so go ahead and check that out. Probably about 20 minutes ago, something like that. But Net, of course, we'll get to that in probably a few tickers' time. I'm not too sure where we are, but we'll get to that eventually. But yeah, I mean, TEM, from a technical point of view, not a lot is going on. It's kind of back into the middle of this area here. You might be able to draw a Fibonacci.
Fibonacci, yeah, let me see. I have to update my Fibonacci, and I removed a lot of levels on this one. Let me see.
So I typically use the 40 to 50 and the 60% levels. A lot of people use different levels, and that's completely fine. But for me personally, I use that. It looks like it's just kind of losing that a little bit. So it's a bit of no man's land, perhaps a bit more downside to come. Maybe this gap fill to come as well. I know you like a gap fill, Kaye. So that's 36 down there. So I'll write that one down. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, if because right now this is a doji candle, right? There's like completely indecision. I don't know if on the AI side you all heard or not. There's this new Chinese AI. I think it's called Manus, MANUS AI, which is like an agentic bot which can do multiple things on your behalf. If not, definitely track it out. I believe if that gets launched here, not launched, but once that's available for public to use, you'll probably see a spike in stocks or decline in some stocks. So if you're into all AI stocks, I think you need to be on top of what's happening in the AI world. So definitely track that.
The next 20 years is going to be wild, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, as a trader, I'm not looking that long. I'm looking at what's going to happen next week.
Generally.
Next up is BA. We have not covered.
Oh wow!
In like, okay, so here's the problem with the. I'll just give you the theory analysis. My theory on BA. forget about the technicals for a second. It's right now very news driven. If the way US is behaving on geopolitical stage, I think the issue with Boeing is China is going to start looking into Airbus. That's going to impact Boeing. If your European allies are not going to be happy with how US is behaving, they're probably going to switch to, or at least start to look into other areas. So I think Boeing is in a very, very precarious situation. They have really not recovered since, I don't know, what, 737 debacle a couple years ago. Then 2020 COVID happened. The stock really was trading at $400 level back, and it has never recovered till that level, since 2020. So my take on Boeing right now is I have it in my position, and I'm still down from last 4.5 years.
Yeah. It's not looking good either, is it?
It's not looking good. No.
I mean, with this, even looking at the technical level, we've had this trend line that was kind of setting from May of 22, kind of rejected off that recently. I'll get rid of it now because it's not really worth it. But yeah, it needs to show some sort of strength for sure. And you've probably got another bit of a trend line here if people are interested. That's probably a bit more solid. So maybe it is a point of contention for the long term. But like you say, it's so much going on with it, and not good either. Not good headlines. So much going on with it. It's a hard. I was gonna say it's a hard sell, but it's a hard buy as well.
I think the only good news on Boeing is that the management change may help, but it may take a couple quarters, barring if there are any additional overhangs from a tariff wars and your allies not being happy with you. And China is a big market. If China really starts to shift Boeing orders to Airbus, that's going to be a substantial impact on Boeing.
Exactly.
Next up is if you want to cover BTC and Ethereum, and then we'll cover the other ones, Net and Broadcom.
So the only one I want to touch on here for Bitcoin is just it's actually coming down a little bit now to kind of the 200 moving average again. So it's been touching this very recently a few times, as you can see on the chart here, 1, 2, and now 3. It kind of needs to hold that for strength, and it doesn't look like it's got much strength going into this kind of holding point again. So it'd be interesting to see what happens here. But I just wanted to kind of bring that one up for investors and traders. It's at a point of interest for many people. I have it down for 73,000, and then I'm interested. I think that's down to the weekly chart. So that's down to the weekly. It's come up a bit now since that. So maybe 75. But I do like that kind of zone of 73 to 75, let's say. So that's kind of the only commentary I've got on Bitcoin. Just draw that up for people to see.
Didn't Trump just have some kind of a conference with talking about the Bitcoin reserves? There's some comments he made. Don't sell your Bitcoins or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was last Sunday. He basically said Bitcoin was bullish, essentially. Now that's when we saw this push up last week, and that was a really interesting push. Was it this one? No, it was that one. Yeah, so that big push up to kind of the 94 level, which subsequently sold off. So actually, that line was pretty.
Crypto reserve, yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? Good you brought that up, because looking at Mara, actually, if you just turn to Mara quickly, because they do Bitcoin mining, I think that will give you a good indication on how things are progressing. At least on Mara, we have had last 4 days have been pretty solid for Mara.
Last couple of weeks, yeah, not too bad. It's still below a lot of resistance points. Get rid of that. But obviously, the long-term trend line here, up here, kind of that 1920 range.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're bullish on Bitcoin, you can be bullish on Mara too, for sure. Ethereum, we'll touch on very lightly. I don't really cover this one or look at it at all, but we like to look at any stocks here on the trading triangle. Let's go out to the weekly. Let's have a look. I do have a wedge drawn actually, by the looks of it. Looks to be losing that wedge, which we don't like to see. So maybe be careful with that one. That's actually a 200 moving average for the weekly chart as well. So that's a big point there. So maybe this one, the 1600 line, which where all the volume is there. Obviously, lots of price action back in 2022, 2023. But yeah, maybe that 1600 line might be interesting for people to have a look at.
Sean, do you trade Ethereum?
No, not so.
No. How about Bitcoin? Do you buy Bitcoin?
I do buy and sell Bitcoin every now and then. I do trade that, but not not often enough to really make it interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a long-term investor either in Bitcoin. Maybe I should be. People
Well,
keep telling me to buy Bitcoin, but
I mean, I can share my experience. At least,
yeah,
back
do it.
in the day, I used to be big into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and since that whole FTX debacle and a couple other Celsius, and there was another one I forget, they all went bankrupt. That was a big a slap on the face, especially if your brokerage is going bankrupt and you lose all your investment. That was like a big scam. All right, moving on to Net.
Awesome.
Net, AVGO, and then I think Hood is the last one that we got. Let's see.
Hood, yeah, good one to finish on. We'll finish on Hood, so no more requests to come through. What's this one? Net, Cloudflare. Well, lots of lines drawn on this one. This is the weekly chart. I'll hand it over to you because you're a bit more of a Cloudflare kind of guy. I'll just draw some lines while you talk.
Let me see. So last when we looked at Hood, sorry, not Hood, sorry, Net, right?
Yeah, no.
It is below our 50-day SMA as well. And then I think that the next level that I'm personally watching is the 116 level. That was our previous resistance. Maybe you can, if you
116.
yeah, 116, 100, depends how you draw it. Like if you want to be really
Should we do a daily chart?
precise, right? Yeah, around that level, that's where most of the resistance was. So that would be my level that I'm tracking because there's not much volume, from 126 to 116. 116 was our previous resistance. So that would act as your support. But the point of control where majority of the volume is between the levels of 108 to 111. The earnings they reported, they had both top line and bottom line beat. Let me just make sure. And whoever asked for Net, I don't know if did they have a positive future guidance. I did not track the earnings. If you can tell me that, because I do see buy, hold, sell across the board from different analysts. It's hard to judge. Wall Street has a buy, but most of the other analysts have a hold rating on Cloudflare.
It's a bit of a sell-off, isn't it? Just from a
Yeah.
logical point of view. It's kind of come down. Let's have a look.
So I'm
Almost
wondering if
30%.
the future guidance was lower on Cloudflare, because I wasn't tracking Cloudflare recently.
But I agree. I think this level of 118, as you mentioned, is pretty interesting. If we break that lower, then 108 would be
Yeah,
my next
that's where
point.
the majority of that's the point of control where majority of the trading happens on the volume profile. So that's what I would target if we continue to see weakness to get in. But otherwise, for now, even if we see a trend, you would want to, if you want to see an uptrend, the first resistance will be the 50-day moving average of 134. You want it to have a clean break, retest, and then we can see a change reversal. But again, that depends on the broader market sentiment as well.
Exactly. No, I've written down loads of notes today. I'm really quite excited.
Okay.
What have we got
Broadcom.
next?
Broadcom.
AVG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
AVGO. Yeah, honestly, I mean, I'm pretty bullish on Broadcom. I will tell
Oh,
you that. Yeah.
nice gap fill
Doesn't
there.
look good, but I'm pretty bullish.
Oh, I've lost my chart. I always do that. I press the wrong buttons. There we go. Yeah, so it looks like a gap fill just recently happened. The gap was actually there. And it's kind of pushing up from there, which is interesting to see. You
The
say you're
good
bullish on Broadcom long term.
Yeah, and the good news is that I'm very bullish on Broadcom on long term. We had a nice bounce of the 200 SMA, which is not on your. Yeah, so see, we had a nice bounce of 200 SMA. I think in general, most of the chips company are in a gutter right now. If you look
Yeah.
at AMD, it's a nightmare disaster going over there. But I think eventually it will recover, and I mean, I think I'm very bullish on Broadcom, honestly, from a long term standpoint.
And this goes back to our kind of emphasis on confluence. You've got a lot of confluence at this level, and I wish I'd seen it a bit sooner. I mean, it might come back down again to retest it perhaps, but the overall market, what's going on at the moment. But this 180 level is really interesting. We've got lots of volume. We've got the 200 moving averages, as you mentioned, and that kind of general previous resistance level of kind of 182-ish. So this kind of area in general is actually a pretty interesting level, I think, for a lot of people. And we've kind of seen that in the price action in the last few days. So yeah, definitely one to, again, stick on your watch lists for sure. And thank you to whoever brought that one up. I believe that was Dubs. Just Dubs. That's all it was. There you go.
Dubs.
Awesome. Right, last one. Let's Hood, shall we?
Hood, and then if you want to just cover the last one, which was AST, we can cover that. We have 6 minutes.
AST, of course. Yeah. Oh, that's ASTS, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I've seen that ticker come up quite a few times at the moment.
Well, Hood is your. So why don't you tell us about Hood?
I mean, Hood, I had this level drawn, this zone drawn between 46.80 and very specifically 53.50, this kind of area, but we've just kind of dropped below that, which is interesting. But you might want to have a look at this previous resistance point around this kind of 42 level. And we've had a couple of bounces in this last week, obviously on the Tuesday and the Friday. So perhaps people are interested in that. If not, then perhaps obviously going back down to the 200 average, wherever that will be at the time, would be a good time to add, but potentially. And then the weekly chart is one that I've been looking at recently as well. So the weekly chart, again, lots of great things happening with the company, plenty of growth, plenty of future prospects. And of course, when there's market volatility, there's, who's going to be making money? That's just as simple as that. People are interested in selling, buying, and that is probably the most popular platform to use in the US. Would you agree?
For
retail investors?
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. I mean, Webull took off as well. I know not people talk about Webull. So it depends on the YouTubers, right? So YouTubers would push Robinhood. YouTubers would push Webull. Then Mumu came out. But I think overall, Robinhood does have a very sleek and UI. I also use Robinhood for doing my testings, but that's not my primary brokerage.
We've got a comment here saying, since GameStop saga, I don't like Robinhood, which I think is fair enough. It screwed a lot of people over.
I think that GameStop, when they took out the buy or sell button, and that was really a slap on the retail investors and traders.
Yeah, they've got to definitely prove their worth, I think, moving forward, and they kind of have done, I suppose, in the last couple of years. But that's a big no to have in your past for sure. But I like this level of 42. Plenty of confidence around it again on the weekly as well. So
there's a comment from Manram.
Okay.
Who did not make the S&P cut
on Friday? Yeah, but it was very unlikely that was going to happen on that particular thing. It hasn't shown enough just yet. It's definitely moving in the right direction for sure. But I don't know when the next cut will be. I imagine 6 months' time. I think that's kind of how regularly it does it. It'd be interesting to see what happens then. I think it's December. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's that. That's when Tesla got in a few years ago anyway.
Well, do you think that we could go back to the 200-day SMA on Hood around 30?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Love it.
I mean, if you have, it's a volatile stock, so you can see, especially in the last few weeks as well, especially with everything that's happened, you can even get a big pump down to that kind of 32 level. But I think a lot of people get excited at this level, as you've kind of seen already, and probably this level here of 37, 36, just because of the support there. And time brings up the 200-moving average as well, so that could also come up to kind of 35 as well. Anyway, ASTS. This one is an interesting stock. I can't remember what they do. I think it's a mobile network in space. We brought it up a couple of weeks ago, I think.
So they develop and provide access to space-based cellular broadband network for smartphones in the US. Its space provides cellular broadband services to end users who are out of terrestrial cellular coverage. Is that like a Starlink kind of a thing?
Yeah, I believe so. But I mean, look at this. I saw it during the week as well, and I don't know why I didn't act on it. But this kind of retest of the previous trend line. And I like a breakout trade, especially a trend line breakout. Lots of price action happening since basically August of last year. Broke out a few weeks ago, come back down and retested in the last couple of weeks and just pushed higher. Looks like it's almost inevitable to go to kind of 39. Of course, it's not financial advice, maybe bring it down to 37, 38. But that kind of zone of 37 to 39 would be definitely a point of interest for traders to kind of take a little bit off the table. Because it's a smaller stock and it moves very, very fast. So even if you did get in at that retest, it's quite a substantial amount of percentage. It's almost 50%. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. Awesome. Anything to add here from ASTS?
No, this is the first time I got to know. So thanks, Warla, for bringing it up. I'll add it in my watch list.
Awesome. That concludes our audience request session. It was a really good one, of course. I've written down loads of notes. I don't know about UK, but I've written down about 10 notes, which is more than normal. And that's kind of where we have the market at the moment. Is lots kind of going on, bit of a drawback in kind of bigger stocks, and it brings down the little ones too to some key levels of interest for a lot of stocks. And it's just about kind of taking those opportunities and kind of doing your due diligence, of course, and your analysis, etc., and kind of play to your plan and your rules as well. That's kind of what I want to touch on, I think. Just kind of execute your trades as best as possible. Anything from UK?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. All I'll add is based on your trading style, I think you should take into account each day. And as an investor, if you are going to be take advantage of these drops and take advantage of the moving averages, right? So add to your long term portfolio.
Awesome.
We did not cover Tesla. We saw that. If you want to cover Tesla, we can cover.
We probably should actually. Yeah, we did say we were going to do it, I think, as well.
So while you're pulling that up, so World asks, you guys think ASTS has future? I'll have to take a look into it a little bit more in detail. But my assumption is that this is going to become either they might get acquired by a larger competitor or a company, I would say, at some point in time. Or I mean, still it's a $10 billion market cap company, so I wouldn't be surprised if another bigger player buys them. Now I know Amazon was looking to launch something similar to Starlink, but they haven't launched it yet. That was part of the they did show it in the CES event, but they never launched it yet. So hopefully down the road they will have an alternative to Starlink. Go ahead, Tesla.
Awesome. So yeah, thank you for Rangma. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but bringing up Tesla. Yes, we skipped it. We do apologise. So it's a very interesting point on the chart as well. So this is the weekly chart we've got here, and I've got a bit of confluence around the volume profile, the 200 moving average, and the 50 moving average from a purely technical point of view. You can talk about the news section in a second, but I think a lot of people will be excited around this sort of area just because of the nature of the sell-off, and it's been down, what, maybe 50% or something like that. Let's have a look. Yeah, but basically 50%. So it's quite the sell-off. Obviously, a lot of noise around Elon. Perhaps you can talk a little bit more about that and kind of the logical side of things. But just lastly, it's below the 200 moving average on the daily chart, which is not great to see, but that's why I've added this area here, which is a zone of interest for me, and I have been nibbling around. As you'll see on my X profile, I've been nibbling all week at kind of Tesla. Any thoughts, Kaye?
On Elon or on Tesla stock?
The whole thing.
Sure. Okay.
Take a pick.
The first good news is that we had the first gap fill done, right, on Tesla, which after I think in November when we had that big gap up, the first gap has been filled. So that's a good news. The next gap is around 222 to 233. So that is what we are targeting for the second gap fill. Is it possible? More than likely, I think that's probably going to be the case. I think there's more room for Tesla to go down. And let's be honest, I mean, there is just a lot of negative news around Tesla. Elon is not helping. And every day there's a news event. Again, I'm not part of a Tesla cult. Tesla is part of my top 5 stocks for 2025. Yeah. So I think there is a good opportunity for Tesla to fall further. The next key event that I think is going to be is the delivery numbers that are going to come out. So now you have to watch delivery numbers even much closely than what you did before, because that will give you a perspective on whether Tesla is really declining or was it just the Model Y refresh coming out. That's why people are holding off from buying Model Y, right? So that part is not very clear. Whether these protest demonstrations are having an impact on Tesla, we don't know yet. Because that event and the Model Y refresh happened at the same time, right? So there's a lot of coincidence. We have to watch the numbers. I will not follow, what's his name? The pink suit guy, what's his name? Dan Ives. Every single week, every single time he'll come, it's a generational buying opportunity. So 350 is a generational buying opportunity, then why not buying at 262? So I'll keep that on side. It's long-term play. I'm totally in favor that Tesla will be much larger from where it is right now. I just think Elon has a lot of overhangs right now, with his Doge firing and his negative news. But listen, if it drops below further, I think we have an opportunity to add Tesla. The next major bull run, I think, will come around the FSD launch, which I don't know when they have announced, probably June timeframe. So that could lead to a run up to that FSD launch, so that you could take advantage of. But as of right now, I mean, just watch and play.
Yeah, I mean, that gap fill you talked about there is drawn on the screen now at 220. So another point of interest if we were to continue going lower, I think, for Tesla. I think that's very well covered there from Kaye in terms of the chart and obviously the kind of noise around Tesla as well. There's a comment here from Manram. Kaye, your quick thoughts on S earnings this week?
Well, how about I do this? I will do a quick thought analysis on my X. So just follow me over there. I'll put on Sentinel on S as well.
Exactly. And then the last question here we've got, we should not forget that Tesla is not only about cars.
That's the problem. Tesla is not about the cars. But at this point in time, if their car production goes down, if people are not going to buy Tesla because of the brand, end of the day, that is their biggest business. Because let's be honest, you're not getting a robot in your home anytime soon.
No, I don't want one at the moment anyway. So,
because
would you like a robot? Do you want a robot in your house, Kaye?
If it's like $1,000, sure, I'll buy it. But it seems like Elon is selling it for $30,000, so it's the same price as a car. I can't afford it.
No, well, some people will, of course. That's it.
Some people are not driving the demand. It's the same situation, right? If you want to bring scale to the market, you need to be able to sell to the majority of the people. And let's be honest, electric vehicle credits are going away. Donald Trump was drill baby drill, going towards the ICE cars. I don't know how that's playing out overall in the bigger picture. Yeah, I do have two, by the way, iRobot. It works very well.
Awesome. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks again for all the comments that are coming through, and obviously the charts that we covered as well. I've written down again lots of comments to lots of charts, which again is why we love to do it. Different trading perspectives and kind of our views on the future as well. Thank you again for Wolf letting us use the platform. We really, really appreciate it. We can do without you. And yeah, I'll finish off with the UK. We did kind of close out a little bit earlier before looking at Tesla charts, but just a final few words and we'll shut it off with the UK.
No, I think what I'll say is that just watch the events. CPI, PPI are going to be very, very critical for next week. So trade carefully and listen, keep adding on those big moving averages for long-term position.
Exactly right. Take care, everyone. Trade safe, and we'll see you next week, same time.